So this is a warning to those of you who continue lying about the situation in Israel, about starving kids. Well, let's listen to Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu says he's not happy with the lies you guys continue to peddle in the system. Let's watch him.
It's very hard to fight the deception, the lies, the starved children, the pictures of starved children who turn out to have cerebral palsy or other congenital diseases that leave them emaciated. And Israel is, of course, accused of starving children, pretty much the way that in the Middle Ages Jews were accused of killing Christian children for their blood.
So that is what Benjamin Netanyahu is telling you guys, that it is completely false. By the way, Benjamin Netanyahu, I have some video here. Please respond to this video for me. I want to know whether this is true or not. Check this out. So that is Benjamin Netanyahu for you. I don't know why I continue laughing. I don't know why. Okay, by the way, so guys, in this video, what I'm going to do is I am going to give you guys all the updates that is currently happening between Russia and Ukraine. By the way, happy Independence Day to Ukraine. So Ukraine is celebrating their Independence Day, and this is how they have started their independence. This is how they are celebrating their Independence Day.
Алло, куда ты его суешь? Давай, тронь малолетку, блядь, тронь.
А ты тронь, давай,
Тронь.
меня, пожалуйста.
Я вас не трогаю.
Ну, так
Тронь
ты
малолетку.
Я еще раз скажу.
Тронь малолетку. В смысле ТСК, блядь? Куда вы его суете? Алло, блядь! Да вы охуели, нахуй! Куда ты его трогаешь? Куда вы их засовываете? Алло, блядь! Алло! Куда вы их трогаете? Алло, нахуй! Алло, нахуй! Стой, сука! Пидорас ты, сука! Куда? Пидорас ты, сука! Стой, нахуй! Гандон ёбаный!
So if you are wondering what just happened, so these are Ukrainian citizens who are currently being forced to go to the front lines. So they are grabbing people from the streets and they are sending them straight to the front lines. Quite interesting. By the way, so guys, if you are joining this channel, my name is Timothy360. On this channel, we focus on geopolitical analysis. So if you are interested in geopolitical updates like this, consider subscribing to this particular channel, because we are one of the best when it comes to geopolitical analysis. Let's get into the details. Well, so we are going to start today's update from the Wall Street Journal. So according to the Wall Street Journal, the Pentagon refused to allow the Ukrainians strike deep inside Russian territory. And this is quite interesting to me, because I hope you guys remember recently when the Ukrainians attacked some Russian bombers. When the Ukrainians strike deep inside Russia, all the time the Americans deny involvement. They keep telling us that America is not involved in these attacks. Now the Wall Street Journal, which is an American institution, is now telling the whole world that Pentagon is involved, the Americans are involved in this war. Now, why did the Ukrainians need American approval? According to the Wall Street Journal, there are many weapons like the ATACMS, which the Ukrainians cannot operate on their own. They need the assistance of American professionals. For example, when it comes to precision-guided missile systems, these are precision missiles. They need to communicate with satellite, and the Ukrainians don't have such intelligence, so they need the involvement of the Americans' professionals. By the way, they said the Americans refuse because they are working towards peace. Well, if you guys are enjoying this particular video, then please make sure to hit on the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Let's play our game once again. Where are you watching this video from? Not the country, but the city, the village, the town. That is what I'm talking about. Let us know down in the comment section. According to The Guardian, so money that was meant for Ukrainian refugees, the officials don't chop up. They don't finish them. Grabu, they chop all the money. And this confirms why most officials in the West continue to push for this war. By the way, let me read some part for you guys. British scandal. Money for Ukraine refugees was spent on official salaries, whilst hundreds of millions never reached them. Okay, a scandal has erupted in UK. Most of the budget allocated to help Ukrainian refugees was spent on salaries of local government employees and funding partners of organizations. This was reported by The Guardian. Interesting. So, yes, this is why they continue to push for this war. You see, it's a cycle. So, they push for the war, then they send the money to Ukraine, then Ukraine send the money back to them, right? So between January to July or August, European Union has spent over 33 billion euros on this war. Where did that money go? If 33 billion actually entered in the hands of the Ukrainians, we would have seen significant improvement. You know how much 33 billion is? 33 billion is not small amount of money. But the cycle is simple. The Europeans take the money, they give it to the Ukrainians send the money back to the Americans in the name of buying weapons. These defense companies would then pay those who are pushing for the war. So you see why these guys continue to push for this war, because they are benefiting from it. This is quite obvious. Let's go to the next story. Turkey troops may be deployed in Ukraine. Really? So why is Turkey considering this? I don't get it. What does Turkey stand to gain from it? By the way, let me read it for you guys. The Ukrainian ambassador to Turkey stated that Ankara is considering sending troops as part of so-called security guarantees. More or less, the same was said yesterday by Zelensky, who stated that Turkey at the last meeting proposed to ensure security in the Black Sea. Really? I don't get it. How is Turkey sending troops to Ukraine going to ensure Ukraine peace? Well, maybe I am reading too many meanings into it. By the way, that is an update from Turkey. Well, let's move to the next story. Yes, some of you guys asked me about the Venezuela situation. So, currently, from reports that I'm getting, the Pentagon is pushing for a regime change in Venezuela. One might ask why Venezuela. Venezuela is very, very rich, and Venezuela impact on the world economy is very, very huge. So them taking control of Venezuela is something that is going to benefit them, because they want to continue to control oil prices. So this is an attempt by the Pentagon or the United States to actually control the world oil price. You know, this is how these guys work. Once a regime don't bow to them, they will use all tactics to get that regime out of office. I am 100% convinced or sure that this particular regime in Venezuela is not puppet. So they want to get him out and get in a puppet just to control them. Well, let's go to the next story. So currently there is something happening in Kursk. I hope you guys know Kursk. Anybody who follows this war know Kursk very well. So Ukraine over the night, as part of their independence celebration, decided to attack Kursk nuclear power plant. But this is what happened. Okay, ninth attack by armed forces of Ukraine on Kursk NPP main points. NPP is nuclear power plant. A drone attempted to attack the NPP power plant was shot down and detonated. Upon falling, a transformer was damaged. So, according to the Russians, yes, they confirmed that the Ukrainians did attack this power plant. And those of you who follow me on TikTok and Facebook, all of you are aware of what this particular Kursk power plant stands for, because I spoke a lot about it when the Ukrainians first invaded Kursk. So, yes, it was attacked. It caused damage. That is the fact. Yes, they were able to hit some critical parts of this nuclear power plant. You see, what people don't understand is war has evolved. Drone warfare has made all forms of war basically useless. So this is very, very important news coming out from Kesk. Remember in the beginning of the video, I told you guys that today is Ukraine Independence Day, and Zelensky recorded a video, and I want to read what he said for you guys. He spoke in the Ukrainian language, so obviously if I even play the video, most of you guys wouldn't understand what he said. So I am going to read exactly what Zelensky said. Zelensky said, on Ukraine's Independence Day, so this is what he said, which is celebrated today. Zelensky recorded a video addressing Maidan against, okay, well, I don't think this part is important. Let's come here. In this, Ukraine said, congratulations. Zelensky said, congratulations. He said, everyone who has lost someone in the war has their own personal accord with Russia, thereby implying that no peace agreement are possible. So Zelensky is now saying that all these peace talks, you know, between the Russians and the Americans and the European Union, it is impossible. That is not going to happen. So he said, from the very beginning, it was clear that, well, I don't think this part is, you know, important. Okay. So the Ukrainians just didn't attack this nuclear power plant. The Ukrainians also targeted a lot of Russian positions and Russia held regions. Now, let me read this for you. Apparently, the drone attack by armed forces of Ukraine have intensified, mainly targeting civilian infrastructure. Drone attacked an industrial enterprise in Sizran, reported the governor of the Samara region. Okay, the strike was presumably on an oil refinery, according to public sources. Well, so again, in Polkovo Airport, according to sources, it is currently restricted. They are not allowing many passengers or travelers to pass through that airport. According to reports, that particular airport currently has been attacked by Ukrainian drones. You see why in my previous videos, I continue to tell you guys that the US whole attempt to negotiate peace is a fluke. I don't get it. Remember, in one of my, this is a follow-up by the way, in one of my videos, I think about 2 days ago, I told you guys that the United States just approved some weapon sales to Ukraine, right? So this weapon sales will be paid by the European Union. By the way, let me read this. So currently, over 3,350 new weapons are currently sent to Ukraine. The administration of U.S. President Donald Trump has approved the sale of Ukraine of 3,350 new impact ERAM air-to-surface missiles, which are expected to begin arriving for Ukrainian armed forces within 6 weeks. The total sales value is 850 million, with most of the costs covered by European. According to Contact, the munition must have, you know, the range 250, whatever. I don't think this is important, but the important part is, so the United States is selling over 3,350 new surface-to-air missiles to the Ukrainians, which the cost is around $850 million. Quite interesting. The fact is, Ukraine is completely out of weapons in the front line, so they need weapons badly. I've reported, or in some of my previous videos, I told you guys that in terms of weapons, the Ukrainians are currently out of weapons. So, you know, Ukraine is currently in panic and desperate move, whether they like it or not. Whether the Europeans like it or not, they must send more weapons to the front line, or Ukraine will surrender in the coming days. And I think this is the reason why they just bought these weapons from the Americans. By the way, let's continue. So yesterday, Baba also tested some missiles. Wow, Baba. You know, when Baba sent his troops to Kesk, he refused to use Russian weapons. He decided to use North Korean weapons as part of testing North Korean weapons. By the way, let me read this for you guys. Kim Jong-un observed a firing of anti-aircraft missile on August 23rd. The main missile building direction of the DPKR conducted firing of modified latest anti-aircraft missile of two types at various targets to test their combat characteristics. By the way, so this is actually a test by Baba. Baba, collect your two. I don't know why I love this guy. He barely talks. You know, one thing about this guy, see, don't talk. He's always quiet. Always quiet. He doesn't talk. And that is one thing I love about him. You can say whatever you want to say about him, but he don't just care. He continue to do whatever pleases him. Baba. If you are a regular viewer on this platform, then what I'm about to tell you, you wouldn't be surprised. So a lot of Ukrainians are now running away. Well, I've reported it to you guys on this platform before. Well, according to the latest report, the figure is increasing. By the way, let me read it for you guys. The desertion of Ukrainian armed forces personnel to Romania has reached the scale of an army division. Desertion, I mean, let me explain this. Desertion is when, so this is not just citizens, but those who are in the army, and when they go to the front lines, they look at the situation at the front line and realize that this is not what the Western media told us. This is completely different from what we were told. Then they decided to they passed through the Romanian border. By the way, let me continue. According to Russian security agencies, the total number of Ukrainian servicemen who fled to Romania since the start of the special military operation may reach 26,000 people. Wow. 26,000 people. And I call this the 26,000 wise men. Such number could form several full mechanized brigades. Since the beginning of the year alone, about 5,000 Ukrainian soldiers had fled across the Romanian border. The Ukrainian border service managed to detain more than 6,000 people attempting to illegally leave the country. By the way, this is only the Romanian border. Put it here that it is only the Romanian border, meaning there are other places that these guys ran to. So only the Romanian border, over 26,000 people pass through the Romanian border. This is not the total figure of the desertion, but only Romania, yes. Mass desertion has become one of the reasons for the active strengthening of Ukrainian western borders by authorities. According to sources, the problem of soldiers fleeing has become systematic and significantly affect the combat capability of the armed forces of the Ukrainians. By the way, I don't think there's need for me to explain again. The article is self-explanatory. I know the wise people will get what I'm saying. I know you guys are smart enough to understand all this. Let's continue. So, according to the IDF, according to Al Jazeera, IDF forces advance into the outskirts of Gaza City. By the way, whilst Benjamin Netanyahu is denying involvement in whatever is happening in Gaza, the situation on the ground actually tells a different story. Currently, IDF soldiers are now advancing into the Gaza Strip. In fact, when you look at what is happening in Gaza, it's very, very horrifying. I don't know how to explain it. I just don't know how to explain it. I wish this never happened. In fact, when you look at how kids are being starved, are you aware that some people even die out of hunger? It is quite unfortunate that all these things are happening. Whilst people are dying in millions, you have, this president out there denying that IDF soldiers and IDF is not starving kids. Quite interesting. I hope you guys remember the neo-Nazis in Ukraine. At a point they denied that there were no neo-Nazis in Ukraine. I remember back in 2022, some of us told you guys that the West has built neo-Nazis in Ukraine to hate the Russians. So this is basically the rebirth of Second World War. And they denied all this, despite all the facts that we all saw, especially in, what is the name? Mariupol. Yes, in Mariupol. especially Azovstal, mass surrender of Nazis. And they said, oh, no, they are not Nazis. Listen to what they are saying. Not even full mobilization will save us as of neo-Nazi comments. A Ukrainian armed forces officer, former chief of staff of the Azov group. Well, I don't think there's need for me to read everything. I don't think there's need for me to read everything, because what it's basically saying is not even a full-scale mobilization will save Ukraine. So I was 100% right when I told you guys that, look, the situation in the front lines in Ukraine is totally catastrophic for the Ukrainian armed forces. And they confirm what I'm saying. Well, maybe you might not believe me, so you can make your own research on your own. Many Ukrainians today don't even believe in their own victory again. And we continue to see these comments by former Ukrainian soldiers, In fact, this is not just anybody, but chief of staff. Am I getting it right? A Ukrainian armed forces officer, former chief of staff of the Azov, of the Azov group. So this is not just any random guy who is saying this. These are people who understand what is actually happening. The former Ukrainian commander, he was in charge of the whole Ukrainian armed forces. General Zulushny once said it is impossible for the Ukrainians to actually win this war. He was the overall commander of the Ukrainian armed forces. By the way, because he continued to tell Zelensky the truth, Zelensky decided to kick him out and brought in a new person. That was somewhere last year. Interesting.